Next is to take the rotor off. And first thing we do there is remove this spool support, which is as simple as that. Just keep your spacing washers in place so you don't misplace them, because that will affect the, if you lose one, it'll affect the line light when you put it back on. Three screws. They're never sort of really tight, these screws, because, well, they don't need to be. Just tight enough to hold them in place. It's just a cover. It's not a high load place, and that should just pop up like that. And just there's a seal. There we go. Which has a particular orientation when you put it back in. Whether you can see the little sealing surface on the inside, on the internal thing there, faces up that way and down that way. So you want that, when you reassemble, you want that facing up. As with most Shimanos, or most late modern Shimanos, it's righty-loosey, lefty-tighty, so left-hand thread on the rotor, and that's just all about the thread being counter to the rotation of the rotor, so that I guess it's just one less thing that can possibly unscrew as you're winding your reel. So they put the left-hand thread in there for that very reason. And we just have a quick check of this bearing in here. There's a plastic sleeve just there, which also has to go back in the correct way. Let's have a look at that. Push that out. You can see there's a little lip on that sleeve. When that goes back in, that goes in facing downward with the bearing going on top of it. So we'll just put that there for now. We'll have a look at this bearing. Absolutely zero noise. So we won't be replacing that one. We will put a drop of one drop wonder. Have I said that before? That's good. And I was saying that's good again. I'll try not to do that. So we just put that back on that guide. Okay, and we'll put it back in the nut with that flanged piece of the plastic on the downward side, like that. And that's done. Now the rotor should easily, and I say that without having checked it, just pop off. There we go. Now there's a trap for young players as well. See that little bit there that's just come out with the rotor? You've got to be careful not to lose that on the floor, otherwise your anti-reverse doesn't work. So just for now, Put that back in there just for safekeeping, and just having a look around the anti-reverse cap there. It's pretty clean. There's a little bit of grit there, which will clean off, but yeah, all in all, not too bad. There's also, yeah, it's a little bit of grit under the rotor there. There's also a cap just there, which you can see. Let me point to it. Just there, which fits on and off. Sometimes it just falls off when you take the rotor off. Sometimes it doesn't. On this occasion, it's stayed there, which is good because you don't want to lose that either. So we'll pop these side plates off and just have a look under there. So I'll just keep these handy because they'll go straight back on when we've done checking under there. Sometimes you have to be careful taking those off, because that spring right there is under a bit of tension and it can pop out and go into low Earth orbit. So just sort of keep an eye on that. It's okay, but just something to keep an eye on. Now, this is not an area that needs a lot of grease and oil, but you often see people pack it with grease, and it's just not necessary. I put 1 drop in there of this. This is an even finer machine oil. Just a single drop in there and a single drop there, and that's all it needs. Really doesn't need anything, but 1 drop there and 1 drop there, what can it hurt, right? So we'll put these back in. You don't do these screws up too tight because, again, it's not a high stress, high load area, and they're only plastic parts, so you don't want to sort of there's a tiny, I didn't show, there's a tiniest bit of blue Loctite on there just to hold them in place. If you go and over tighten those screws, you'll crack these plastic parts, and yeah, then you're up for a cost, which is never desirable. Extra cost. It's not really much under this one. We're just having a look, make sure it's not full of sand, which it's not. So that's good. Function of the bail arm is good, which is what I expected, because the owner said that there weren't any breakages in the reel anywhere. So now I'm going to pop a drop of this, which is alright, I'll show it. It's Inox MX3 lubricant, a needle lubricant. Basically, it's a fine machine oil. So in this hinge, you see 1 drop coming out the end of the applicator needle there. Just one drop in there and one drop in there, and just work them in. And on the other side, same. Drop in there and one drop in there. Beautiful. Now the line roller, you can hear that probably, that rumbling noise. That's the line roller bearings. So to get them out, remove the little keeper screw there and put that somewhere secure, because there's very little. Lift out this locking device. And put that with the little keeper screw. Now onto the main screw, which is on this reel is obviously not corroded, so it's good. On a lot of reels I get this screw here is corroded into this part here, which causes major dramas. So if you're game enough on your own reel, just get this screw every now and then, just back it out and then back it back in. I'll show you how to relocate it, and then that will save you some money down the track, trust me. Because if you have to start replacing these parts, Stella parts, as I'm sure everyone knows, are not cheap. It's out. Just pull that back to keep it out the way. Now we'll just disassemble this line roller. And what I like to do, even though I've done 1,000 of these, is as you take the line roller apart, just lay the parts out. It's fairly easy. Oh, not easy. It's easy. If you lay the parts out as they came off the reel, then reassembly is a simple matter. Okay, that little spacer in there is vital. Okay, that bearing's come out without the guide, so that's okay. That can stay in there. Okay, so that's the line roller spaced out. It's fairly clean under there. There's another spacer just there which has stayed in place. That's good. This sorry if you didn't see that, this support post here just sort of locates itself. It's got a little click into place sort of recess there, and it clicks into place. So this orientation of these two lugs here is important, but you can't go wrong because of those guides. So that's good. Let's have a look at these bearings. Noisy. And the other one, because it's a Stella, so it has to have two, right? Two of everything. 15 bearings in these reels. Yeah, again, that's noisy as well. So we'll replace them. We'll go into our, we'll measure them first. We'll show a measure. 5/8, 2.5, I think. 5, 8, 2.5 by 2. And we'll delve into our little magic box of bearings and so these are the new or replacement bearings. You can see these are rubber sealed rather than the metal shielded ones. They're just a little bit better at lasting a little bit longer because it's a contact seal. The blue thing there is a contact seal, whereas the other ones, the factory ones, are a shield, and there's actually a gap which moisture can get into. So also with these small bearings, especially with small bearings like this, you have to be a little bit gentle with them when you're assembling them because they're so small and the metal is relatively thin. Even though it's stainless, it's thin. It's easy to deform them, and then once they're deformed, they're buggered. So we'll put it back together. One in there. And what I like to do there is just, I think I've said it before, the thinnest smear of grease. You won't even notice it doesn't provide any sort of lubrication at all, but it just provides a little bit extra barrier to water getting in. Just gets your bearings to last a little bit longer, just the tiniest bit. I know I sound like a cracked record on that, but it's real. The pain is real. Slip that back on. That's a little spacer. And the second bearing casing, the second bearing. Yeah, I'm going to push this in with the tweezers here, but you do really need to be careful that you don't push on the seal, otherwise you'll push the seal into the bearing. You just very gently on the sides like that so that it's on the outer race. And there it is. And the same on the outside surface of this one that we did with the inner bearing. Just a barrier. This spacer here has a correct and an incorrect orientation, which you can probably see there, flat on that side. That goes inwards like so. Now I'll just hold my finger on the back of that post there, just so it stays located while we're putting it back in. You just feel you feel it sort of click into place. Not click, but you feel it locate. And now we'll get our main screw and we'll put a drop of Loctite on it. Now you can see that amount there. Can you see that? That's all you need, because you don't want it to come off, and as you're screwing it in you don't want it to come off and go through all the rest of the assembly. You just want it on the threads only. Screw that in, if I'm stating the obvious, I suppose. Okay, just until it takes up. Then hold the bail arm and the bail wire and just give it a little wiggle like that, just to make sure it's all seated nicely. If there's no movement, which there's not, it's all good. Line roller's moving freely. Now what we've got to do is we've got to, and it looks like it's lined itself up perfectly, but so you won't have to move it. But you can see the two little holes there and the recesses on the screw. We have to line that one of those recesses up with one of those holes. Doesn't matter which one, because the little keeper, the little locator apparatus, is reversible. So whichever one of those two holes lines up with the recess, that's where your keeper screw goes. And you can see the orientation of that. Slips in there. And you can see, I think when we took it off, it was over on this side here. But on this occasion, it's lined up with that hole there, which is just fine, thank you very much. Now, on this tiny little screw that we discussed before, we've got to try and get the even tiniest, even more tiny bit of retaining fluid on there. There we go. You probably didn't even see that, but it's there, trust me. It's going to be really good if I had tiny little fingers instead of big sausages, but I don't. So you play with the cards that are dealt to you, right? Screw that down just until it's snug, and then give it a tweak like that. Again, don't over tighten, because you'll strip that hole out, that thread out of there, and then you're up for a new bail arm, which is dollars. So that's pretty much the rotor and the spool done. I will give this a clean up with the polish, and then put it to one side, and then we'll have a look at the body of the reel.